Okay. Hi, Susie.
Hi. How are you? That was so interesting to listen to.
Oh, good.
Yeah. It's like investing is relatively new to me, and so I've been talking to my teenage daughter about it a lot because no one talked to me when I was 17. And so I'm just making her listen to all these conversations about investing. I was like, you need to start now, don't wait till you're my age.
Yeah, sadly, not many of us have conversations about this until until we need to. So shifting gears. I mean, we did talk about how, from a financial abundance well-being, it does impact our health and lowers our stress levels, and we can sleep better at night in a lot of ways. But now shifting the conversation over to health as wealth. So shifting a paradigm, which I think is happening. And I'm so grateful to both of you for joining us. Barbara, I'll let you take it away to introduce the panel. And
yes, thank you and welcome. Today's panel, we're going to discuss, actually have a conversation with both of you around shifting the paradigm around health and well-being in the workplace and beyond. And then has the pandemic helped us realize that health is wealth? What are the trends that you're seeing in well-being and the sustainability space? And what is the power of connecting with nature? There's a consumer willingness to invest more in health and well-being, and we're starting to hear a lot more about that in the news and as we talk to corporations. What are the creative opportunities for new ventures to encourage a healthy lifestyle and way of being? And we just don't think that success can no longer be detached from overall well-being. So I'll let both of you introduce yourselves. Claude, do you want to start with you?
Yeah, I'd love to. Thanks so much for having me. My name's Claude Silver. I'm the Chief Heart Officer of VaynerMedia, which is a creative advertising company headquartered in New York. And I've been there almost 7 years and been in the CHO role for 5. And it's wonderful being here. I love the topic.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi.
Okay, Susie.
Yeah. My name's Susie Arnett, and I'm the Director of Wellness Programming for Six Senses, which is a sustainable resort brand. And we're based in Thailand and have properties all over the world. And wellness is very deep in my heart, too, and a great topic for this time, especially.
Yes, it definitely is. And I guess we'll start off. Well, what do you think? Are we seeing a real cultural shift to health as well? Claude, you want to start?
Oh, yeah, sure. I think we're on the upswing, put it that way. I think we're on the upswing. This has been, we all can say so much about 2020 and what it's done to us as a collective and a global community, and also what it's done for us in our own communities and our own personal, our own personal soul. Quite frankly, I think that many of us have had to find or empower ourselves to find outlets to kind of diffuse and figure out how to find synergy, if not balance, between life and work. It's like used to be work-life balance. I really think it's like life-work balance now in many ways. And obviously with the weather changing here in springtime in North America, I think is a really good opportunity for people to start taking more advantage of being outdoors and stretching their legs and doing those things that we know creates both oxytocin and serotonin in our brains, which we need. We absolutely need. So the move towards wellness, I believe, is on the rise. And, what's that saying? It's always darkest before the dawn. I think we saw some pretty dark days.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What about you, Susie?
I think I totally agree with everything you just said. And just to add that I feel like the definition of health is really evolving at this time. I mean, we saw there was such a huge growth in wellness pre-pandemic. I mean, it's not something that came out of this. It was definitely a trend, but I feel like, and it's even hard to remember back to before 2020, but when you look at what was happening in 2019 on the programming level anyway, wellness was being baked into everything. You know, there were stores in New York City with yoga classes in the back room, and my parents live in New Jersey. I remember there were grocery stores opening up fitness centers inside the grocery store. Like, people were putting wellness, you know, I think car companies were using mindfulness in their advertising. So I think wellness was in just kind of getting baked into every industry. And the change now, I think, is like what you were saying, Claude, is that it's becoming way more internal because it's had to be. Like, we haven't been able to go out. We haven't been able to do things in an external way. And we've really had to look inside. Okay, like, what does wellness mean to me right now? I'm in my house all the time. What does that mean to me? And so I think the definitions have evolved, but also it's true, you know, we're going into the summer, you know, things are opening up, and I think it will again create another redefining of what health and wellness is.
Yeah. Yeah. I also think we've seen so many more apps, so many more wellness.
Yeah.
Whether or not you're talking about intermittent fasting, which I seem to get ads for every like, oh, maybe I should check into that. Apps. Certainly Peloton came out. I mean, couldn't have picked a better time to come out last February or so in terms of their apps. So I think we've all done the apps really well. And my hope is that we now are able to do this really well with one another.
Well, speaking of that, I would love, I mean, maybe people are watching and listening and they're like, what is a chief heart officer? So I think it's great. This is part of the paradigm shift, right? I speak a lot about, not speak a lot, but also practice mindfulness and conscious leadership with companies as a consultant. And I'm so grateful I can use words now, like empathy and compassion, a lot more. And I can use the word love. These are things that, like, when I was going to business school, like I always say, like, what the MBA didn't teach you. And there's a lot, but most of it, it's about the human spirit that goes into leading an organization. And so tell us a little bit more about your role, what that actually means. And then I took a peek at your website, and you talk about being an emotional optimist.
Yes.
And so what is that?
Yes. Okay. So my role as a chief heart officer was originally set up to scale Gary Vaynerchuk, who's our CEO. I've been entrusted with really carrying the culture and taking care of every single human being. And so the way I look at that is, you know, we all have a central operating system, which is our heart. This is, without our heart, we are not living. And each and every company, quite frankly, and culture is created and maintained and cultivated by human beings who have a heart. And so my job is to really look after the heartbeats of the company. And that really includes, you know, I renamed the department from HR to people and experience, because that really means taking care of the people and their entire experience at Vayner. And I have some, you know, wonderful team that does that scales me now, and culture champions. But, you know, I'm interested in every single thing that is going on within a person's world that they want to share with me, because that affects who they are at work. 1001%, you know, we know that for sure. So that's what I do. It could, you know, when I sat down with Gary and he said, that's it, you know, you're going to be chief heart officer. I had already been there 16 months. So I knew, you know, where the warts were, what we were great at. And I said a couple of things. Great. One, I'm not HR. I've never been in HR. And he said, you'll hire a great team around you, which we've done after 5 years, which is great. And I said, how do we know if I'm successful? Because that's what anyone would ask. And he said, you'll touch every single human being and infuse the agency with empathy. So that's my job. That's the only job description. And each and every moment of every day, each and every screen that pops on, I have that incredible honor of holding that space and creating safety, and then listening and figuring out how to connect the dots with this person, how to open them up to new and incredible challenges, whatever it is. So that's what I do in a very elongated way of saying I take care of people and I work for and with, you know, 900 people. I've always been an optimist, and I put the word emotional in front of that recently, maybe 3 years ago or so, because it dawned on me that yes, I'm an optimist, but I'm not a Pollyanna. I really respect the journey and the emotions and the trials and tribulations and the joys and the celebrations and all of the above that we all go through every single day. And so it's not to negate those emotions, it's to take those emotions and to use them to almost empower you and then reframe that so that you can see hope, you can see possibility, you can see that the sun will shine tomorrow, and so whereas some people say it's the silver lining because that's my last name, that's yeah. But it's really embracing and holding all of those emotions but not letting them take you down.
Sure.
Using them as knowledge so that you can rise again.
And I love that you say that, creating space, because I think so much culturally, and that's what I think is a big shift, is that there, especially in the workplace, like there is space finally being created to be human.
Yeah.
We're not robots. And I felt, I was a management consultant for over a decade, and I felt like, I'd say felt bad, but I'd empathize a lot of my clients because you could see that they could never bring their full selves forward to work. And that is not healthy. Like that's not part of, a healthy existence. So super fascinating. I think every company should explore this chief heart officer role. Yeah. So putting it out there.
I'd just say lastly, like you may not even have this rock star title, but you still go for it. I didn't always have this title, but I was still me. And there's plenty of people with the same type of drive and desire to hold space for people and to really serve in many ways. So keep doing it.
Love it. Susie, Six Senses has been, they're the leader in sustainability, but also just in, you want to call it wellness travel, but, people come to your spaces to be well, not just they're beautiful spaces as well. Absolutely amazing. But what are you seeing? Like, how are people, share more about how you're able to connect the three components, the well-being, the sustainability, and call it personal exploration, hospitality, or travel, like how it all kind of blends together.
Yeah. Well, I think they're so interconnected because sustainability and wellness are the same thing, whether it's on a personal level with the practices that we each have that keep us sustainable, that keep us living in a sustainable way, or whether it's how, as a property, Six Senses builds in sustainability into the local communities, where they are, because you can't really have one without the other. And, I've been at Six Senses for 2 years, and we have a program called Mission Wellness, which is our employee wellness program. And we have an internal email that they send out once a month and just about what's happening at all the properties. And it just makes me fall in love with the company even more because you get these stories from, like in Oman, for example, where we fund girls' education. And the hosts at the property at Six Senses Ziggy Bay will go and teach English, for example, to the girls. Or there was a property in, I think it was Cambodia or Thailand, I can't remember, but the local hospital didn't have an ambulance. And so they bought an ambulance for the hospital. And so, these are, yes, they're kind of obviously sustainable. We grow a lot of our own food on property. And during the pandemic, when so many of our places were closed, we were giving that food away because we had all these gardens and all this food that we were producing and couldn't use. We had no guests. And so we would build boxes of food and people would come in the local area and we were just giving the food away. And so that's sustainable, obviously, in a kind of very literal definition. But I think it helps all of us in terms of creating just a kind of field or a vibe of wellness that's just good for everybody. It's good for the people that are giving. It's good for the people who are receiving. And whether it's just like on a purely environmental level, like I think about Six Senses Lamu in the Maldives, where we've done so much reef repair and work with the manta rays and the turtles. You know, it's good for the environment. It's good. It's keeping that beautiful place going, and it's keeping it beautiful. It's trying to really, we have a Jeff Smith's our VP of sustainability, and he's kind of now not even using the word sustainability. He's using regenerative. Like, he wants our properties to actually add more to the places where they are instead of kind of mining from them. And so I think that it goes across the board, you know. But it's true, people do come to Six Senses because they want to feel better at the end of their vacation than when they got there. And so, you know, and I think it's always the, you know, it's like you can have an amazing meal and it can be healthy. It doesn't have to be, you know, bad for you at the same time. So I think for us, it's always this question of how do we do the best that we can, and also always make it as healthy an experience as we can, you know, in terms of like the footprint on the ground, in terms of somebody's internal experience, in terms of the host's experience of giving as well, you know, on site. So yeah, it's a long answer to say they're all connected.
Well, I love, because both of your work, I mean, ultimately, like, has a massive imprint, you know, like you call it footprint and imprint, right? But Claude, within your organization, you touch every single person there. That's an imprint in their daily existence. And Susie and your team, you know, you're leaving an imprint on someone's life when they come visit your properties.
Yeah.
And maybe a realization, both of you, an aha moment of, oh, maybe there's a better way, you know, and for themselves, not a, you know, scolding or some other preachy way. It's just like, oh, an opening of maybe there's a better way of doing things, another way.
Yeah, I love the chief heart officer. It makes me feel like we everybody who works at a Six Senses, we call them hosts, but it feels like everybody's a chief heart officer at Six Senses. Like, everybody's really trying to, if you've ever been to one, like, just everybody's trying to create that experience, you know? So it's so great to have that in the company as well.
Mm-hmm. No, I haven't been, but I can't wait to go to one of the malls in Cambodia, Thailand.
Right, I know.
We'll have to do a She Ventures retreat there.
Beautiful.
Everybody wants to travel today, you know.
I know.
Yes,
It's true.
So Claude, what are the trends that you're seeing in your organization as it relates to investment and well-being? You know, I think it's interesting to think about, you know, where we are now and where, you know, we think we're going to go. And, you know, lots of companies have a lot of questions around that too.
Yeah. Great question, Barbara. I would say it was sometime in 2019, we implemented what we call a wellness wheel, which was good timing for that, I can say. And when we talk about wellness at Vayner, we talk about the mind, the body, the emotion, financial, environmental, physical, I already said that, wellness. So it's really kind of like family relationship wellness. So it's really a really great wheel. And what we've leaned in more so in this past year in 2020 on emotional and mental wellness. And so, for example, that's been meditation, that's been yoga. Every single employee has access to life coaching. So we work with a company called the Handel Group. They have an online platform. You can get one-on-one coaching with them as well. We have our financial advisors that come in and quarterly and speak to anyone that wants to speak about their 401ks, for example, or has questions. Obviously, they can't advise you on put this there, but they can advise you. We had a great conversation earlier. Environmental, we've been working with people as they've set up their home offices. That's something we did early on, giving people a stipend to create the space that they need to create, which has been terrific. And doing I would say a lot of internal conversations in terms of DE&I. That has been something that's been really, really big. So the back to the emotional wellness, emotional fitness, whichever you want to call it. I spend, I would say, the majority of my time in those areas right now, making sure that people feel seen, making sure in this turbulent time in terms of what's going on in our country, people have a place to have safe, have a safe space. I call them courageous conversations. And then we brought in a physical fitness instructor. So online, again, it's on an app.
Yeah.
You can get online, and watch the recording, and do your own exercising. We've done that a lot in the last 2 years. And then this past year, we worked with 2 different companies. And then healthy eating. We have someone who was on, is it called The Biggest Loser? I can't remember.
Okay. Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Jimmy from The Biggest Loser does a whole fitness program for us and healthy eating. So we try to take care of everyone in pretty much almost every single domain we can, and looking at the whole human, which is just, I can't imagine not. Like, I just don't. Yeah. That's just what I believe we need to be doing in our workplaces. No questions asked.
Yeah, agree. And, it's great that you're leading that, and hopefully others who are listening today will either push their organizations or be part of their organization solution. Because I do think that coming out of this, it's going to be so important.
Yeah.
And not that it isn't important today, it is, but I think companies have to put it as a priority. So, yeah. Susie, what about you? What are the trends in your organization? What do you see, as far as you're already a wellness type of company, but do you see any other shifts in that, in what you're investing in as far as well-being?
Well, I guess for us, there's 2 sides. There's the employee side and the internal, and then there's the guest-facing side, and so I'll speak to the guest side a little bit. I talked a little bit about mission wellness, and but on the guest side, we definitely are seeing similar things. Our kind of signature wellness programming tends to be around sleep, movement, yoga, spiritual practice, all these kinds of things. But we're bringing in more emotional wellness, emotional fitness, whatever you want to call it, reconnection. We tend to be a place where people really celebrate big life experiences, honeymoons, 50th birthdays, wedding anniversaries, things like that, family reunions. And so really building in ways to support families connecting more deeply to each other. We have a wonderful GROW program, which is we're taking to the next level. So if you go, if you have 3 generations of a family going away together, and this is like their time to be together after being apart for so long, creating experiences to really help create connections among everybody. And but I think I agree with what Claude's saying. It's that the inner state of wellness and well-being is so key, and it's important to move your body. It's important to be outside. It's important to do all those things. But my favorite quote along this line is from Sean Corn, which is, "It's not what you eat, it's what's eating you." And, I think it's like you could do all the right things. You could work out, you could do this, you could do that, eat the perfect diet, intermittent fasting. But if you're not okay inside, you can't take it in. It's not going to work. You're still going to be. And, so I think that foundational piece is primary to wellness. And that's whatever it is that you do has to touch at that level, otherwise you're just kind of band-aiding whatever's going on. So
yeah, this is so timely, and you probably see me looking at my phone. The verdict in the Floyd trial is happening within the next half an hour, 45 minutes, and so I just got word, and so I'll be sending a note out to the entire company, and that's part of taking care of our people. It's the least that it's the only thing I can imagine doing, which is holding space, but also letting people know like they can tune out for the rest of the day. So, by the way, forgive me for looking down. This is like
No, please.
But that's great. I mean, because you're acknowledging something, right? Yeah. And a lot of companies and corporations and whatever, they'll just put it under the rug because they don't want to make a statement or they don't know how to.
Yeah.
And so I think it's really important to, face some of those really difficult challenges head on.
I mean, we have to. So, and literally, I mean, that's what you see me doing. So forgive me for being.
No, totally get it.
It's so important to acknowledge and not to shy away from. I don't have answers. I only have a heart, just like all of us do, and my heart breaks. And I wish I did have the answers, but I want our teams to know all over the world that they can take care of themselves right now.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
And I do think that that's just the awareness piece, right? It's awareness, and it's an action behind the awareness, because there is, in every single panel, everything discussion we've had, there's a disconnect. And when you talk about our health and our well-being, it's connecting all those dots together. And the main dot to connect is that we're all human beings here together, sharing this one home. And it's somehow, when you look at the injustices that are happening around the world and in the US, in particular at the moment right now, it seems like we forget that. And so it's creating opportunity and space to feel that connection more. I always tend to lean towards nature, as using that as an example of feeling the connection to something greater than yourself. And if you can feel that, or in meditation, then you can look at somebody else and not see them as different as yourself, or maybe have the space within to have the compassion, to have the empathy, to have, but you have to be able to have that for yourself first.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you can't actually give what you can't give yourself.
That's right. That's exactly right. Yeah.
So being what's happening at the moment, and to maybe other leaders watching, Claude, what would your words of wisdom be for organizations that are starting on this journey, or maybe they don't have the same level of awareness or the same level of resource or buy-in from the top, right? Which does play, and they don't necessarily maybe know the right thing to do. What advice would you give them?
Yeah, it's interesting. The buy-in from the top one's a really interesting one for me, because I'm lucky that I do, right? I'm lucky that I work side by side an incredible CEO who's very with it and very real. But that being said, we have to be listening to our people. We have to be listening to what they're saying on Slack, what they're, have one-on-ones, have culture jam sessions, talk to people, find out what is going on with them, and then address it in the best way you can. And the best way you can is to actually say, I'm uneducated in this. I want to learn. I don't have the answers. I'm here for you. Take time off. You don't have to be on camera. I mean, the note I'm about to send is like, let's just shut down for the rest of the day. And obviously England's already shut and Singapore's sleeping, but it's to everyone. I'm not just sending this to the US. So it's so important to pay attention to what people are saying verbally and what they're not saying verbally, but they're still saying, so spend time with people. It's they're speaking. You just need to be able to listen. And if your CEO or your board or whatever it doesn't have the time for it, isn't interested, whatever, you are interested, and do it. Like, lean into that, because we're all hurting right now. Whichever way you go, way you go right now. So to deny that is just to deny that we have hearts,
Yeah. It's such a key piece, to be with people and to listen. We get so carried away. I mean, I saw it so much in my consulting career, so focused on the goal, on the end result, and investing a lot in process and technology, and leaving the people side behind. Like, somehow that was like the afterthought. And actually that was the beginning thought. So Susie, what would you share with people on their wellness journey, right? Like, Success is amazing place to visit and things like this, but you also are creating virtual programming and other ways to engage. Not everyone can get to Six Senses for many reasons, but what would you encourage people in their journey of well-being? Like maybe they're starting off this journey, or they've had some aha moments this year and they don't really know how to chart that path.
Yeah, there's so many ways, and obviously many of them don't require going to Six Senses. I think one of the key things that I think about is just wonder and awe. And I think this is incredibly healing and nourishing. And so you can cultivate awe at home, anywhere, or in your neighborhood. I mean, we live in the woods, and so there's a lot of beauty where we are. But even if you can just find one spot, one of the things I've heard from a lot of people this last year is they've really been discovering their home, the region around their home. Mm-hmm. And maybe they're going down to neighborhoods they've never been to, or, they're visiting areas and walking in places that they never went around their home, and discovering great little neighborhoods or little corners of their town or their city. And I think this is a great way to open your eyes and be curious. And I think the brain loves routine. The brain loves novelty. And we've had so much routine, and we really got to figure out how to give it the novelty that it loves as well. And I think we do that when we see things with new eyes. And I can remember, I don't know, you asked that question, and it just reminds me when I was a kid. I grew up in Los Angeles, and in the summers, before anyone knew how to drive, 9th grade or so, we would all walk together to the bus stop, and we would take the bus down Wilshire Boulevard to Santa Monica to go to the beach with our boogie boards and a backpack, and that was a wellness holiday. Like every day, it's so accessible if you just shift your mind state a little bit. And so I think it's about finding the pleasure in small things. It's opening your eyes and really seeing the beauty that's around you that we've stopped looking at because we've been looking at it all the time, and really trying to find novelty because it's just stimulating. It wakes up our brains a little bit. It wakes us up a little bit. And that could be, again, it could be on your street. It could be in your partner or your child or whoever you've been, your roommate, whoever you've been stuck with for a year, and really, really bringing fresh eyes to your life. I think that is what we get from travel, is we get novelty and we get to have fresh eyes, and we can do that at home anytime, and so that's, I think, where I would start.
Yeah. I love it. And it makes me think of the beginner's mind.
Exactly. That's a great phrase.
And how much freedom comes with it as well. Yeah. And excitement. You find the extraordinary in the ordinary, or you allow yourself to find that. So, well, I am so grateful to both of you for sharing your thoughts, your insights, your openness. And Claude, thank you for telling me what's happening. So obviously I'm watching the screen, so I'm not getting to see what's going on in the world. But we're here shortly to wrap up, and I briefly now glance on my phone, and I'm praying for justice, as I think.
That's peace.
Yeah. But I again, thank you so much for being a part of this conversation. And both of you are doing work that impacts, like I said, it leaves so many imprints, and not just within your own organizations, right? It's a role model. It's a model for other people to look at and follow. You can run an organization that focuses on people's hearts, for the success of your organization. And Susie, with yours, that travel and having beautiful destinations to visit, there has to be a responsibility around keeping them beautiful, right? And that it's all related. So thank you both. And
thank you.
And I look forward to continuing the conversations in other ways besides the summit. So thank you all.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for having me too. Nice to talk
Nice meeting you. Thank you.
Bye.